I mean, put me on a dance floor and I'll break it down like no other.
I have Amy Porterfield Instagram video to prove that, by the way.
Proof positive.
I've seen that.
They're both Pat Flynn, and this guy can break it down.
Podcast Junkies. And we are up to episode number 6. Okay, this episode's a short one. It's John Lee Dumas. We got a small window with him, and we really just made it informal. I just wanted to pick his brain a bit and really make it like a fly-on-the-wall session. Nothing too rigid with questions, just a little bit of back and forth for you to get a feel of what John is like. You've heard him all over the podcast interview space. So he's the host of Entrepreneur on Fire. His story is pretty amazing. And with Podcaster's Paradise, he's just killing it right now. So I'll put show note page links so you could see all the details there. But I think this is just more of a laid-back show. So just sit back and enjoy.
So, man, so it's been a whirlwind for you, obviously.
Yes.
I feel like every time I turn on YouTube or turn on iTunes or my Downcast, I see you all over the place, and you might have a duplicate. A twin brother floating around somewhere because. So how do you do it? Like, how do you keep up? Are you still riding the wave of excitement where you're just like, oh man, this shit is like so fun and
I love it.
Yeah.
This is me. This is my flow. I love this. I just wake up every morning excited to do these type of things. Man,
so it's funny because naturally I picked Podcast Junkie because it's the first thing that jumped to mind. I was at NMX. I saw you speak in January. And I was there in the room, and I saw you talking, and I was like, okay, because I went there for something else, like for this mobile app that was going to start a podcast where I was going to interview DJs because it's like electronic music type stuff. And then it just jumped out at me. I said, man, I saw Chris Murphy introduce Cliff Ravenscraft. And he said he started talking about like how I love podcasts, and I'm like, yeah, that's me. I'm a podcast junkie. And then I bought the domain name on the webinar. I don't know if you know this, but I bought the domain name on the webinar for Podcaster's Paradise. Like,
get out of here! That's a great story.
Yeah. So while you were talking, I'm like, okay, let me see if this is available. And I just like, okay, I'm going with this live. And by the way, I just bought the domain. So
your audio sounds great. I mean, your setup looks great.
Yeah, I did. I had the first one with Chase Reeves, and
he's so funny.
He's hilarious, man. I had to have him because I saw him speak at NMX as well, and then I started listening to the Fizzle show, and the guy is freaking hilarious. He's like his comedic timing is awesome, and I'm sure having a drink
spot on.
I'm sure having a drink with him would be pretty awesome. He's a funny guy. I think he's kind of drunk on those shows anyway. Sometimes.
He's always drinking. You can hear the glasses and the ice.
The glasses. Chinking. Yeah. So for the next one, I'll make sure we plan and make sure we each have a drink handy, or we do it in person sometime. I'll get out there. Yeah, I'm in New York right now, and we're moving to LA. So
LA, right up the 5.
Yeah, we'll be on the same time zone, man. So it'll be cool. So you naturally were the guy who was listening to podcasts as well, right? You were driving. And I mean, I did the same thing, but when I got started, I was listening to music, right? And you were listening to shows to keep. I mean, I've been in that same position on the commute, and yours was like an hour. You said, right?
Yeah, I had a lot of commuting to do. I mean, sometimes it was 25 minutes, sometimes it was an hour. Because in real estate, you never know where that showing is going to be or that appointment is going to be located at. So it was all over the place. And so.
Do you remember, like, if you're thinking back, obviously you talk a lot in a ton of the interviews how you were just listening to stuff to pass the time. Were you naturally drawn to the entrepreneurial stuff, or were you listening to other stuff, music in the beginning?
I was really drawn to the entrepreneurial stuff. I've never been a music guy, never really liked music. I mean, put me on a dance floor and I'll break it down like no other.
I have Amy Porterfield Instagram video to prove that, by the way.
Proof positive.
I've seen that.
That both Pat Flynn and this guy can break it down. That was at 3 a.m. at the Cosmo in Vegas. At New Media Expo. So when you had your aha moment, a couple hours later, I was having my dance-off moment.
Yeah, that's fine. I got to join you guys because I get down with that as well. And I saw
Nice.
Pat Flynn recently put out a challenge. Like he's like, I feel like a dance throwdown. And I started saying, yeah, we'll get some Belle Biv DeVoe, some Poison. And he's like, yes, that's exactly it. I was like, all right, then. Because I DJ. I've DJed for like 20 years of my life. So
Nice.
I
So
play
you do like music.
Yeah, I do like music, and I like making people dance. So, yeah. So it wasn't the music for you. So did you just stumble upon? Because I mean, obviously the name.
It was because I disliked music that I was searching for more. I'm like, well, I'm tired of hearing Miley Cyrus on the radio every single, or every third song.
Yeah.
Like talk radio is brutal because I have no control over it.
Yeah, it's horrible.
And there's 12-minute commercials every 6 minutes, which is just disgusting. What else is out there? What are other opportunities? And luckily for me, one of my friends and neighbors at the time said, well, go check out a podcast. This was like back in 2010.
Yeah. I
was like, well, what's a podcast? And I quickly learned and quickly became a raving fan. And for the next 2 years, I just consumed. I never produced. But finally, while I was making that commute, running out of these great shows like Pat Flynn only produced a show every 2 weeks. So I went through all of his content for 2 years in like 2 months. And I was like, where's that daily podcaster?
It's funny because when you find a good show, like I've had this happen, like it's a sign of a good show, actually, if you go back and listen to the first episodes. Like because if you have stuff that you like are just kind of okay about, you're like, if they don't grab you with the first two, then you're just like, you just move on to the next one because especially now, the competition is just absolutely ridiculous. And Pat Flynn's, I did the same too. I was like, oh, this is good. The next one was good. I was like, okay, I'm kind of like OCD that way. I got to hear the whole story. I want to hear the beginning, how this started. And you get that when you go back to the first couple of ones as well.
Well, what's interesting about that comment, Harry, is that like you say you're OCD and like you may be OCD, but even people who aren't OCD seem to be OCD when it comes to podcasts. It's really a strange kind of phenomenon where when people find a podcast they like, they, number one, are completists. They want to start that podcast and they want to finish that podcast, which is why I really make sure to try to keep my podcast at about the 28 to 32 minute mark, because that's the average commute time, which is where a lot of my listeners consume my podcast. Yeah. And number two, they're also completists to the fact where they want to hear all the content. So they're going to go back to the beginning. What's really neat about that is that allows your listeners, your avatars, to grow with you as the host, because you got to see Pat and even myself, if you went back and listened to the early Entrepreneur Fire episodes, as like really inexperienced, pretty bad podcast hosts, like slowly getting better and progressing, as we notched hundreds and hundreds of interviews and shows under our belts. So that was like a really kind of important kind of transition, for, what I was seeing in the impactfulness that podcasting has that allows you to grow that audience like nothing else can. You don't have a radio talk show host that can grow that kind of audience, because I can't go back and listen, to all the old talk radio shows that there are. I don't want to, because again, there's more commercials than anything else, but podcasting is very unique in that way.
Yeah, I think it's and the fact that you said that you kind of get your 10,000 hours in, if you will, and you get them in faster when you're doing a daily podcast, obviously. So
for sure.
And so you pick that time slot, that 30 minutes. It seems like a lot of the things you do are pretty well thought out and pretty well planned. And it probably you can it's either your personality or you can attribute that to the military background.
It's a combination of the both. I will say that, excuse me, I feel like I've started my life as an infant throughout a very organized person. Like I liked being in control. Like my mother was always like, why is your closet like organized by colors? Like you're 7 years old. And, I just was always like, I liked being in control. I like that feeling of not being disorganized. And then the Army kind of took that and like really kind of put a fine edge to it and like really crafted me to put that discipline into actual action. And so with Entrepreneur on Fire, I was able to take that military discipline, my natural desire for organization and control, and apply it to what most people would have thought was an impossible schedule to maintain, a 7-day-a-week podcast interviewing successful and inspiring entrepreneurs. Because what's one thing, Harry, that successful and inspiring entrepreneurs have in common? They're really, really busy.
Yeah.
So how are you going to schedule these guys? How are you going to get them, to come on, and how much back and forth is that going to be? I said, you know what? If I make my show good enough, if I make my audience powerful enough, then when I actually, reach out to these people and share with them when my studio time is, my studio time, and you're looking at my studio right now.
You're in a different room, right? Because the couch is normally sideways, right?
We moved about 2 months ago.
Okay.
So we're in a new place here.
Yeah.
And so we have a different furniture, different room, different everything.
Yeah.
But, this is my studio that you're seeing. And that's how I present it as well, as saying, hey, I would love for you to be on the show, Harry. Here's my studio times that I have. It's Mondays only. I have, you can book out as far in advance as works for you, but I hope you find a time that does work. And every single one of my interviews that I do 8 per Monday, every Monday, is only on Mondays, which gives me the rest of the week to do stuff like this. My Saturdays, I have dedicated to doing shows on other people. So I have 8 interviews like this one, back to back for the, you're my first of the day. So that's why you're getting energized, John. The last person might get a little bit of a short shrift, who knows? But I don't know if you can tell, but I'm also standing. I have a new standing desk.
Me too. I'm standing too. I tried that. So
I can tell. I love it. Don't you love how your diaphragm is just like open and you're expanding and you're just like, hello, world. And I'm French, so I'm always flailing with my arms. And if you're sitting down, you're kind of like a Tyrannosaurus Rex, like flailing. Yeah. So it's much more awkward.
That's so funny. I just obviously when you say it, it's Dumas, of course, French. Is it? Are you parents both French?
Yes, they are.
Okay, and have you been out there?
No, I'm going for the first time ever to Paris, May 14th.
Yeah, we went 2 years ago with my wife. We did kind of whirlwind. We did Barcelona, Madrid, Berlin, and Paris in one trip. So.
Was it muy romantico?
It was muy romantico. And we're kind of bohemian, like adventurous, into music, and obviously with electronic music. So out of all the cities, we actually like Berlin. Berlin's fantastic, man. It's just a New York City vibe. So nice. Are you going back to the motherland, so to speak? Are you going to see relatives or what?
No,
okay.
All the relatives that I know or are aware of, I'm sure we have some back there somewhere, but moved from like the southern regions of France, like 4 generations ago to Quebec City up in Canada. Yeah. And then a couple of generations ago, they moved down from Quebec City into Maine, which is where I was born and raised.
It all comes together because I remember you went up to see for your grandmother. You went up to you went back to Maine, but then I think when you were there, you mentioned something about Quebec. So I think as you start to tie all the pieces together, you're like, okay, the French, Quebec, France. That's cool.
And again, back to the beauty of podcasting. I mean, you know this many intimate details about me. Even though this is the first time we've ever had like a real one-on-one conversation. I mean, we've been at New Media Expo together and other areas. But that's the power of podcasting, man. It's so intimate.
Well, it's kind of, Pat Flynn talked about this too. It must get kind of creepy because I know more about you than you know about me. Well,
it is. It stops being creepy pretty quick because you just get used to it. I get emails all the time from people that say, John, this is going to sound creepy, but like I feel like we're best friends. Like I listen to you. You're the first voice I hear in the morning when I go for my jog. Sometimes I can't sleep at night, so I fall asleep to your voice. And I am a heterosexual dude, but I just really dig what you're doing. So thank you for that. And I'm like, no, it's not creepy at all.
How's your French?
How's my French?
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 0.
You need to at least learn how to say, "Are you prepared to ignite?" in French. That would be awesome. You got to do.
I actually have Entrepreneur on Fire coming out in French. I have a guy in France who's just like, "Can I do the Entrepreneur on Fire French version?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely."
How would that work? Is it like he's got your endorsement or something like that? Like,
yeah, I'm just like, whatever. Let's spread the love. I don't care.
Wow, I may have to talk to you about the Spanish version. My wife's Colombian, so
that's already been locked down too.
That's all right. Okay, you got to pick the the more complicated languages. So that would be tough. But yeah, it's possible. Especially, I mean, think about books. Like if you got a book that's a bestseller, automatically it's like in 15, 20 different languages right away. So there's no reason why some sort of model like that. And that's probably some sort. If someone could put together, hey, I'll take your successful podcast and you know, I'll get you the licensing rights for like 10 different countries. You know, that would be, and then they had the speakers lined up who could translate. I'm sure there's a lot of work involved in that.
I love it.
But I'm sure you and I both have a ton of stuff on our plate already.
Bandwidth.
So you had to be. So you mentioned the stuff about like you're organizing your closet early on. So you kind of got the OCD too. So I mean, I got it. So I recognize it in other people when I see it, because it's that thing about having to have like your desk organized. Like I obsess over like font sizes sometimes, and like, you know, things that seem crazy to other people. But I think you need those kind of people in there. And then you surround yourself with people who are like more of like the doers or the producers. And if you can take your OCD management skills around them, I think that's when you start to hit it out of the park.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I mean, I do see a lot of the similar tendencies in the successful entrepreneurs. And like, not to kind of like go down kind of a crazy path here, but you know, that's kind of is one reason why that I attribute like that I've never like done drugs or wanted to go down that path in life. Because I've never wanted to give up control. And I've always felt like that's kind of what drugs did to people. Is like you kind of like gave up control, motor function, XYZ. I mean, I'll enjoy, you know, an alcoholic beverage, like any, you know, like a
kickstand in college. I heard, yes, Podcasters Roundtable. Heard that one too. So
or two, Podcasters Roundtable. But you know, I see that tendency that, you know, that these successful entrepreneurs are really those ones that, you know, they do stress over the little things sometimes, but sometimes it is the little things that make the big difference in the long run.
Yeah. So it's interesting because you had to have that from the beginning, and you felt like you wanted to do something that made a difference. Did you immediately think that it's a podcast about entrepreneurs will be the one that resonates the most with my audience, and it's going to be the one that I'm most passionate about, or were there some other ideas rattling around your head?
So the key thing that I think everybody that's listening needs to really kind of focus on when they're thinking about starting their journey is the most important thing to do first and foremost is really drill down and nail your avatar, that one perfect listener. And so that's what I did, Harry. Like I just said, who's that perfect listener for Entrepreneur on Fire? Well, his name is Jimmy. He's 34 years old. He has 2 kids, ages 3 and 5. He drives to work by himself every single day. He doesn't like his job, and he wonders why he spends 80% of his life doing things he doesn't enjoy doing. I mean, you've heard that on Podcasters Paradise Workshop webinars, and that's so important, and so few people do this. And so just define your avatar, and all these questions that you're asking me right now are answered by saying WWJD. What would Jimmy do?
Yeah, exactly. These ideas, you know, you talk about defining your avatar and niching down. Was it, I mean, I know you talked about having a coach and a mentor as well, and Jamie Tardy. So was she able to like help you articulate and get to that point faster than you would have on your own?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the most important step that I took as an entrepreneur, the most successful step, was getting a mentor first and foremost. Yep. She's the one that led me to the mastermind. She's the one that led me to going to Blog World in New York City back in 2012 when I didn't even know this world existed. Like that was so like impactful for me to have that one person that could just cut through all the red tape, that could just hit that fast forward button, get me from point A, you know, to point J, just like that.
You'd be interested to know that I've just recently taken on a coach, and he was recently on your couch.
On my couch. Let me get Nick Unsworth?
No.
On my couch. One more guess.
Yeah.
Caleb Wojcik.
No. Greg Hickman.
Greg Hickman. I have a lot of really awesome entrepreneurs on my couch.
Yeah, that's true. I can imagine.
Pat Flynn was just on there. Rick Mulready Amy Porterfield was just on there. So you couldn't go wrong. If you just choose your mentors from my couch, you're pretty much all set.
You're like the Airbnb of podcasters or something like that.
Love it. About the Airbnb of all-star entrepreneurs.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably another business in that somewhere. So when you talk a lot about the imposter syndrome, because, when you jumped into this, you mentioned a couple of times how you bailed on starting it, 2 or 3 times, and you're like, I can't do this. And I mean, I've been through that and I'm going through that now. When does the imposter syndrome disappear?
Never. The imposter syndrome is at the core of every human being's soul. We're born with it, Harry. It's why human beings are still alive today. It's an innate sense that we are just born with. It's why, our ancestors avoided the saber-toothed tiger, because they doubted themselves. They were scared of certain things. They were scared of failing. That's why they worked hard to learn how to build fire. I mean, take it all the way through the generations. Yeah. That imposter syndrome is always going to be there. And instead of being afraid of it and letting it get you down, Harry, be that 1% who embraces the imposter syndrome, realizing that it's never going away. And that because the imposter syndrome exists, it weeds out the 99% of people who can't get over that and can't get over their fear, and puts the people that do, myself, Pat Flynn, Amy Porterfield, in that top 1%. And anybody can join us here. Just embrace the imposter syndrome.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because if you think about the fact that it never ends, then you don't have to worry about looking forward to a time when it's over and you don't have to deal with it anymore. You kind of just ingrain it into your current workflow, and you're like, okay, I'm always going to have this, but it's not going to define me. It's not going to defeat me. And I'm going to actually use that to empower me in all the things that I do moving forward.
It's part of the journey.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you're moving, like I said, we touched upon this when we started, that you're moving like 1,000,000 miles an hour now. Have you started to think about the broader picture about where this is going? Where'd you like it to go? I know you're adding some more products to your mix, but I mean, you're allowed to think bigger, and you're allowed to dream as well, right? So, John Lee Dumas in a year, John Lee Dumas, and I'm sure maybe part of what you're talking about with your coach and your mentor as well is part of this thought process. But are you thinking bigger? Are you thinking what's beyond this, and what can you do as you move forward?
No, I'm not. I am seeing this world that just changes so fast, and those that remain agile are really the ones that I'm seeing that are succeeding. So I don't know what's going to be an opportunity 6 months from now, even potentially 3 months from now. We just launched the beta version, the early bird version of Webinar on Fire, which is how to create, present, and convert your webinar. And Harry, a month ago, I had no idea that this product was going to exist. But, the reality was when you do $500,000 in sales on a live webinar in 5 months, people start asking questions about how you do that specific thing on that live webinar. And so, of course, a light bulb goes off, and I say, well, I'll just turn that into a course, just like I turned Podcaster's Paradise into a course. So I don't know where we're going. I like not knowing because, we live in this world that changes so fast, and it's so exciting. And, I just know as long as I continue to serve my audience in the best way that I can, that, and I always put them first, and I put, that Albert Einstein quote, don't try to become a man of success, but rather become a man of value. I feel like people that try to plan far and ahead are trying to plan for success. Yeah. And they're losing vision of what's right in front of them, which is providing value every single day. So I'm doing that prior. I'm providing value, and we'll see where it goes.
That's definitely your gradual realization of your worthy ideal, right?
Oh, what a great quote by Earl Nightingale. Success or happiness is the gradual realization of a worthy ideal. It's gradual, Harry. It's not just realizing it right away. And it's not just an ideal. It has to be worthy.
Yeah, and I think gradual is a relative term because I know on some of the folks, I think Tropical MBA folks, that's another mastermind that works with entrepreneurs, they talk about the 1,000-day plan. So 1,000 days is 3 years. You have to think about, you have to plan now where you want to be there, and you kind of have to do the things that will put you in a place to succeed. So you're not going to do something and in 3 months you're going to be successful. I know you talked about with on the Podcasters Roundtable, it took you 6 months before you started seeing any significant revenue from the podcast. So
right, which we share, very openly in our income reports. We have the first 365 days where those first, 4 or 5 months, it's all red. Yeah. It wasn't until we got to the 6th, 7th month part that we even started seeing any kind of an income. And it wasn't until, the 12, 13 month point that we started seeing the huge income that we're seeing now, which is 6 figures a month.
So getting into the home stretch here, how do we get this message out? Because what's interesting is that this is fun to talk about within this our bubble of podcasting, the podcasting world. But I'm sure you've come across it, and I'm sure you've had conversations with people about what the hell is a podcast. Like, I don't even know how to get one on my phone. I don't even know, when you tell me that, what that word means. Like, any suggestions or thoughts about expanding this beyond our small circle of people that we just, keep interviewing each other and keep talking about the same things that we all know about and love?
I think it's happening naturally. Right now, 4 out of 10 people in the U.S., which is a pretty cutting edge country comparatively, know what a podcast is. Yeah. But when you have areas or companies like Stitcher Radio going in the dashboard of cars, when you have iTunes making a major push, when you have SoundCloud that, as I'm sure as a musician or liking music, is all 100% music focused, now making this massive push into the world of podcasting. It's opening up a lot of people's eyes, and I think it's going to happen naturally. Anything that's worth knowing will naturally be revealed, and I think podcasting is one of those. Yeah,
I think we just do one off. So I had a friend of mine. I just kept sending her podcasts, and then finally she texted me. She's like, "Okay, I found a good one. It's Duncan Trussell is a comic. It's hilarious." Oh, cool. And she's like, "Oh yeah, okay, now I get it." She texted me. She's like, "Okay, I understand podcasts now." And now she's hooked. And my wife said the same thing recently to me. So I guess, like you said, it's just one listener at a time. Last question, John. Why do you do what you do?
So the tagline with Entrepreneur on Fire is to inspire millions, and that's the overarching feel. But I want to take it down 6 levels. That Toyota, like the 6 whys, and we don't have time to ask all 6 because there actually are 6 levels. Yeah. But the bottom why, Harry, is freedom. Freedom for myself to do what I want to do, to wake up in the morning and truly follow what I feel like is my flow. Which, back up to that number 1 why, is to inspire millions, as you can see on my mic flag here. But, the truth of the matter is that, Entrepreneur on Fire is my vehicle to allow me to wake up every single morning and not be under somebody else's schedule, but to be in control of my life, my schedule. That's why I do what I do. That's why I serve my audience so genuinely and so passionately, and will continue to do so.
And you feel confident that there's nothing else you'd rather be doing?
True that.
Okay, John. I definitely appreciate this quick and dirty insight into the mind of JLD.
Thanks, Harry.
I'd love to have you on at some point in the future and see if we can't make it in person.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
And I got a great balcony right here, a view of the bay.
Yeah, we got to do it. Yeah, we'll crack a couple of beers and we'll take. I've seen that view in Kate's couple of snapshots, so it looks awesome. Yeah,
I'll get it for you right here.
We'll get a sneak peek. Yes, there we go. I'll see you at Podcast Movement.
Boom, Dallas, August 16th.
Okay, John. Have a freaking fantastic day with your interviews, and take care.
Thanks, Harry. You too. Okay. Bye.
Woof. Now, that one did feel like it went by pretty quickly, but I think I was just having the same conversation I would have with John if I was sitting on the couch with him. So, and you can tell, like he said, it was the first interview of the morning, so he was pretty energetic and pretty lively, and I think that came through. So we covered a couple of things. As always, show notes, podcastjunkies.com/6, and we'll provide the links there. Downloads are picking up, and thanks to those that are listening and are just discovering the show, we've got 5 older episodes in the can you can take a look at if this is your first one. And you can head to the show notes page for all the links on subscribing, reviewing, rating, and even providing feedback via email or SpeakPipe. So this week's track is actually more of a mix. It's by my good friends and new favorites of Cedar and Soil, Palenque Soul Tribe. They're a duo, now more closely a quartet, based out of Los Angeles by way of Colombia. and they play a lot of good cumbia infused music meets electronica. So this mix is called Cumbian Chill, and you can see the rest of their music and hear it on SoundCloud, and also check out their new album Mar, which is out now and available in iTunes.